Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Sophie Scardacci with Crave Spark, and we have,
Becky Goldsmith
yes,
with piece of cake.
yes, with a piece of cake. And she is one of our prolific producers of amazing classes on Crave Spark. She has a new block of the month coming up, and today we're going to chat about what that looks like and also kind of the design, how she got there. It's going to be really actually, I think, an interesting conversation about how designers come up with their inspiration. So I hope you enjoy it. We will put links to the block of the month. It actually starts next week, but you can join anytime. So it starts on the 28th, and it's got what's called dripped or scheduled content. So things you'll get the pattern throughout the year, and there's a lot to it. So we're going to cover that more at the end of our conversation. So if you want to hear more details about that, stay with us to the end. We're not going to make this super long, so something that you can enjoy. And hey, if you have any questions at all, please put them in the chat, and I can see some of you have joined, and we really welcome you to our conversation. So, hey, Becky. So,
Hi, Sophie.
what is that behind you?
This is where I am in putting together my own Blooming Joy quilt.
Yeah,
And it's good because I'm enough ahead. I'm enough ahead of everybody that, yeah, it's a
yeah,
good thing. Yeah.
exactly. And just also a little quick information. I am going to be doing Blooming Joy this year, which I'm super excited about. And I'm actually going to, this is my year goal to learn how to do needle turn applique. So I think all set. Becky has me all set up for it for success, and she will have you set up for success too. But let's take a look, because I asked her for how did she come up with the design? Did she have like a sketchbook or whatever? And she is going to share some of those images. So
Yes.
I'm going to switch views here. Aha, there we go. So this is
Okay.
this is page one of what I received. So tell us
Yeah.
about this. Tell us about your design process, or what makes you like where your starting point is, or all of that.
Okay. So for this one, what I really thought I was going to do was a center medallion with blocks out from the center medallion. And I started drawing this and I thought, well, that's not it. It's close, but no, that's not it. Okay, go to the next slide.
Okay.
And then I was still on the whole center medallion thing, and I thought, well, it could be fun to put like a scene in the middle and break the scene up and then put things around it. And and there are still parts about this that I may come back to in the future. But that wasn't it either. But see those big round circles behind? I was thinking what would be fun in the tree would be to fill them with something more like flowers, right? Rather than just leaves in the tree. So there was an idea, and I thought about birds because I like birds. I like birds a lot. Okay, then next slide. Then, see, here I was. I started filling in flowers on the trees. I hadn't quite let go of the houses yet, but it was becoming more flowery. And don't the little houses sort of look like milk cartons? They look a lot like milk cartons. And okay, I wasn't exactly loving it, although again, I may come back to this, but I was beginning to like the idea of the big flowers. Okay, go to the next slide. Because then I got to thinking, no, what I want to do are blocks and I want to do vases. So this is several days into it, and I don't know exactly where those sketches in between went, except what I did. Actually, the sketches in between are pretty much here. What I did was in Illustrator, I did a diagonal grid, right? And I started filling it in, and I started doodling little vases. I didn't want them all the same. The vases have to be small because the bottom of the block is small. They start having a very mid century modern feel, suits me fine. And these are much more about the flowers than they are the vases or the leaves, although vases are important because they anchor the whole thing. And then, so I got most of the blocks drawn, but you see the setting triangles at the edge, those were hard because I could have pieced them, and I didn't want to do that. I could have left them blank, and I didn't want to do that. I could have gotten a print, and I didn't want to do that. So then I started playing with this vine. If you look at the very bottom, you can see like the three loopy petal things. Yeah, I didn't like that either. But once I got the vine going and the way it goes around the interior blocks, okay, I was happy with that. Then if we go to the next one, you can see that's that's in Illustrator. So once I got the drawings done, I got all of this in Illustrator. And Illustrator's the line art program, so once they're in there, they're in. And then next slide. Then I printed it out on paper and I started doodling with borders. And I like the out of scale giant flowers with very few leaves. And that's what's going to be all the way around the quilt. Um, and I like it. I like it because it's like a field to the outside. I haven't exactly decided what color those flowers are going to be yet, but they'll be nice. And the beauty of this is everybody can color their own the way they want. Okay, then if you go to the next slide, generally, when I'm doing a design, my brain is working on two tracks. So I'm thinking, what am I actually doing? Got to have the pattern. And I'm also thinking, what fabrics am I going to use? And because this is a block of the month, and because I know people very often like to make what they see, which I completely understand that, um, I went out and started choosing fabrics that I thought would be easy to find. Turns out sometimes they're easy to find and sometimes they're not. But this is Edita Sitar's. These are from her one of the collections last year. Laundry baskets,
It's Beach
blue,
House.
beach house. A lot of are all of these beach house. I
A
think
lot
there
of
might
them
be
were. A
something.
lot of
A
them were
lot
Beach
of
House.
beach house, and beach house is over now. And then I didn't realize this, but her next collections always have blues, but the quality of the blue is different. But I mean, it's they're more, red, white, and blue blues, more navies, more that kind of blue. It where these lean more teal. But the beauty of blue is, and you look at these and you think, how can those work together to be a background? Except they do, because by and large, you can put together all different kinds of shades of blue and they're going to work. Now, that really bright one over there on the far right, it's the far right on my screen, that one didn't make the cut, but, but the rest of them did. Okay, go to the next slide. And then once I got blues up and the background blue that's on the far left, I've got some. I don't know if I'm going to use that for anything or not. But then I started playing with Liberty of London because I wanted to use Liberty of London applique fabric. And these are actually Liberty of London cotton lawns. These are the finer weight because I have a lot of them. And I put them up and I thought, well, they're pretty, but there's two things here that kept me from using these. One is knowing that people would want to use the fabric that I'm kind of using. You can't just go out and find these. They're really hard to find. So forget that. And then the other thing is they're light. And mine is going to be a bed quilt. And by light, I mean they're fine. They're finer fabric. They're a little harder to applique than regular cotton. Sophie, you just need to know this because I know you're using these. Just accept it. They're a little harder to use. They're beautiful, 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 but they're a little harder. And they are too light for my bed because I have my grand dog over enough and he gets on the bed with his Cocker Spaniel feet and does this. So none of that. So then I found, okay, let's go to the next slide. Then I found Liberty of London in quilting weight cottons. And they're a little easier to find, and that is what I'm using. I sell some on my website, but they're also easier to find, and I am mixing those quilting weight cotton lawns with other fabrics from my stash, mostly Tildas. But you can make this in anything you want, and you can see this is where it was on my design wall about a month ago, maybe a little more. I think that's my last slide.
Yes, it is. Sorry, I was muting
Yes,
myself
it
because
is.
I
I
was told there was an
thought, right.
echo. So,
So what's fun? Okay, so for those of you who are doing the block of the month, I will provide you with these pictures. It's not going to be a big secret, so that you can kind of see how I've mapped colors through the quilt, um, and that should help you as you get each month's pattern, so that you can kind of plan, do you want your colors to be similar to mine, or do you want something different? That's great. Do you want a dark background, or do you want a light background? Do you want, it could be anything. Although I would black would be lovely, but black is hard to sew. Just any of you guys who are thinking about a black background, it's really hard to see what you're doing on black. Other than that, anything would work. Just be really pretty on light or white.
so if
Um,
you're also like a beginner, or you don't have a lot of experience with needle turn
mhm.
applique, Becky assured me that these shapes are
They're
big
giant.
and that they're easy to applique. So this isn't going
Uh-huh.
to be a really difficult necessarily applique project, even though it looks like there's a
No,
lot there.
no,
It's not.
because okay, look close while you're there, Sophie. Look close. Notice all those big rounded edges. Those babies are easy. And there are some outer points. There are some very sharp outer points, but I don't think there's an inner point on this entire quilt. Well, that's a win right there. And I don't think there's any true circles. All of the circles are drawn to be just a little bit squashed. This is really, really straightforward applique. And if you look at each block, they're easily doable in a month. I mean, seriously, they're fast sewing. Wait, I lost you. I can't
Okay,
hear
so
you.
I'm back. I'm back. Sorry. Okay, so what I wanted to tell people about a little bit was like how this block of the month is going to work. And there's lots of different ways in how you can participate. First of all, if you are like a lone wolf and you're like, I don't want to be part of any community, Becky has just the pattern for you for sale on her site. But if you would like to join us for a year, once a month for a meetup, a little stitch time, time to ask Becky questions, get feedback on your project, all of that. We're doing a monthly Zoom meetup on the fourth Tuesday of each month of 2025. So that means it starts next week. And the meetup is at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Um, and so you can join that, and there's lots of things that you can do with that. Now, if you're not experienced with applique, this class doesn't actually teach. It's not really a class. It's more of a meetup
It's a
community
visiting.
event.
We're
Okay,
getting
like
ready
support.
to
It's a
visit.
support group. It's a support group,
Yeah.
and you will probably need some help with that. And Becky put out earlier or late last year applique mastery, which is every kind of applique you can think of pretty much, and it's all in the class in there, and you can watch whichever kind you want to do. If you're going to do needle turn, you could do machine applique,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
whatever
Oh, this
whatever
is oh,
is
this is
your
great.
thing. You do not have to do needle turn, but that is an option too, and there's bundles and all of that, that we'll put up on the link for the page. When you get to the sales page, you'll see that. And then of course there's a community page too. That's comes with any of Becky's classes. So regardless of if you've joined a different class, you're already in that community as well. So that said, I have, here's a little selection of my Liberty, there we go, my Liberty fabrics. These are my blues. But in terms of colors, you kind of briefly mentioned, what you, that you could really go in any direction. And that is something you could ask, feedback. You could take a picture of your fabrics if you're in the class and send them to Becky and be like, what do you think? Because Lordy, I do that all the time.
Well, and one of the things for those of you who join and are doing Blooming Joy, if you can, and if you're using different backgrounds like I'm doing here, it is not a bad idea to cut your backgrounds and get them on the wall so that you can see how they look together. Because once you start appliquing the blocks, depending on how you plan your applique fabric colors, it can be a little harder to move them around and end up with a balanced whole. So if you can make yourself do it, I recommend you cut your backgrounds.
Exactly. Becky has me building a design wall, and I have promised her I would cut all my background fabric out by the end of the week, so that I'm ready to go next week.
Yeah. Well, and you can for quite a long time just go with the blocks. There's 13 blocks, and then you can think about faking it with the triangles to the outside, because you don't cut triangles for those things. Each triangle is appliqued on a bigger square that's then subcut on the diagonals. So it's in the instructions.
Sally said that she's going back and forth trying to decide if the vases will be the same color for hers, or like shades of brown, or she's going to do a variety, which is kind of a cool idea too.
Well, okay, here's the thing to look at, and I'm glad this photograph is up. If all the vases are the same, that becomes a pretty big design element. You want to think about what you want people to see first. Do you want them to see the vases first? Do you want them to see the flowers first? Do you want, like if you're going to stay with almost the same flower colors across the body of the quilt, it sort of changes what you see. So when I look at mine, they're all so different that my eye keeps bouncing around from block to block.
But that's like a really great, that was a great question, because that's the kind of things that you can ask in the meetup. And we're going to answer it right now. But also, like, that's not a wrong answer. You may want that. And I think that's just, thank you, Sally, for putting that in there.
The best way to know is to put it up on your design wall. That's really the only way you're going to know for sure.
Yes, we're trying to find space for the design wall. So but this is really exciting. So again, you can sign up today. There's a whole little package, download package to get you kind of organized and know what you're going to need. It's already in the course. And then you, starting next week, we'll have the meetups. The meetups are going to be recorded, but they're really more of a support session. I want to say, like, this isn't like as much like, oh, Becky's teaching for an hour. They're more like really casual, and hopefully fun for everybody that comes and joins us. So I hope you join me too.
I want questions. I'm hoping for questions in the meetup. So bring your questions.
Yes, we all, well, yes, I will have questions, but hopefully everyone else will have questions too. So, so thank you, Becky, so much. It was so good to see you. And next week I will see you in the meetup. But so Blooming Joy starts next week, runs through the end of the year. There's a whole schedule on the page, and we hope you can join us.
Yeah.
So see you later, everyone. Have a great day.